Of 37 years, going on 38 now. Let's have a big hand for Mr. Barry Cahill. And I gotta say, I'm still impressed with him all these years. And I am. Because he meditates every morning, and I don't. And he reads a lot of mystical, magical, and mysterious, spiritual, and all sorts of wonderful books. So that's where he gets all his good knowledge from. So let's have a hand for Mr. Barry Cahill.
All right, thank you. This mic's a little loud, so I'm going to step back just a wee bit here. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I know we're, 26, 25 days into it here, but I'll tell you what, I'm still kind of getting used to writing that 26 on my checks and stuff, or my signatures and things like that. So we're going to have a reset. We're going to have an awesome 2026. How many of you made New Year's resolutions? Raise your hands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Me too. I remember I first learned that back in 3rd grade when my teacher, Mrs. Tanner, said, "Okay, class, get out a piece of paper and write, 'I resolve to.'" And I thought, how do you spell resolve? I was in 3rd grade, for goodness sake. But she taught us what that meant, and she said, "We're going to make a New Year's resolution." This is right when we came back after the holidays, and it was kind of nice. I thought, well, I'm going to set some pretty lofty goals for myself as a 3rd grader. Number 1 goal, I'm going to stop picking my nose. That was a big one for me back then. We always make these lists of goals, do's and don'ts. I tried back in the 1980s doing a daily schedule down to the 5-minute block. That lasted about 5 minutes. And I'm gonna move my life forward. I'm gonna set these goals. I'm gonna finally read this monster here, the Holy Bible. I'm gonna start at the beginning. I'm gonna read it this year. Yeah, right. I find that setting goals, making lists are both noble efforts, but how many of us, by a show of hands, have actually found this really works in the long term, right? Yeah, maybe for 1 or 2 things, that are really important. And in the short term, they might work for a while. Yeah. But here's the reason why it doesn't really work in the long term. One is trying to affect change on the surface level, on the level of ego, on the level of the finite brain mind. That needy little me inside the physical brain. That accumulation of memories which group themselves into beliefs, which group themselves into larger belief systems. And we're trying to function from that to affect change in a much larger world, or even in our small little world. And it doesn't really to work out very well. In this teaching, we have a philosophy, if you will, that I like to call spirit-first thinking. Start with the spirit and let that be the foundation from which all other thoughts and actions flow. And we forget about that. So Einstein once stated so brilliantly, a problem cannot be solved with the same mind that created it. When he created his theory of relativity, it came to him in a dream. He was riding on a beam of light, and there was another beam of light running parallel to it. And from that, and other experiences that he had, he put together E equals mc squared. Just a little science footnote for you nerds out there like me. Do you guys know what that means, really? It means the energy contained in anything, in any matter at the end, E, equals matter times the speed of light squared. Now, the speed of light in English is 186,000 miles per second. That's really fast.
Yeah.
They say it's as fast as anything can go, and squared. So like a little gram of uranium, he figured out, has got this massive amount of energy times the speed of light squared. And they proved that when they set off the first atomic bomb. It's pretty amazing. won't go down the political ramifications of that, but it's true. The energy contained in a small amount of matter is huge, huge. In the Bible it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's Romans chapter 12, verse 2. The Apostle Paul says that in his letter to the Romans. What is the renewing of the mind? I mean, what really is that? Believe it or not, we do a little bit of that in our meditation here. That is, I like to call it a glimpse through the keyhole into the renewing of the mind, into becoming enlightened. We experience that in a very small measure every time we meditate, every time we pause and take a deep spiritual cleansing breath. One of the best ways to renew the mind is to bring in a sense of awe. I love the daily word. They were talking about zeal and passion. And sometimes those words get a little bit twisted up in their meaning. But I think awe and zeal and passion are very, very close cousins in their meaning. It's going into life with wondrous eyes, like our song talks about, with that sense of childlike wonder. I mean, think of a time when you were really moved by something outside of yourself. Perhaps it was a beautiful double rainbow that filled the entire horizon. I've only seen that once in my entire life, and I was speechless. That's all I could do, is just stare at it. I was with a friend at the time, and I finally said, man, you don't see that very often. That's the best I could come up with to describe the awesome beauty of a double rainbow that went horizon to horizon. Maybe it's something like a beautiful view in a national park. I'm particularly fond of Yosemite Valley. Maybe you had that reaction the first time you saw the Grand Canyon. Or maybe it was a deed of extraordinary heroism that you witnessed or just read about even. Maybe it was holding a newborn baby, human or otherwise. But regardless of what the cause was, awe has a sense of speechless, breathless wonder. Something that causes the heart to expand and the eyes to tear up, and changes the actual brain waves to a higher transcendent frequency. They've actually studied this. Our founders added, we are told to be renewed in the mind by spirit, and to put on a new persona, which is created in true wholeness. The mind is a creative factor within us, and when the mind takes its pattern after spirit, it automatically renews the outer person after true holiness. What is he saying? Let spirit come into the mind and have a renewal of the mind. We do this again in meditation all the time. What we're really saying is here is essentially we co-create a new life in the new year. In order to do that, we need to get very clear on what kind of life we want to create. And here's the key, to do so from spirit. Again, that spirit-first thinking. And this is really important because we've all heard that old saw, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Right? We've all heard that one. Be careful that what you're wishing for, what you want to create in your life in this new year, or any time, is in alignment with the highest good for all concerned. Now, perhaps your life is going great, and you wouldn't change a thing. Hey, congratulations. That tells me you've been using this teaching, whether you realize it or not. You've been creating a life that is perfect for you at this moment. Or maybe your life is, very good, or pretty good, but you'd like to make a few minor tweaks and changes. Maybe you'd like greater health and vitality, maybe more prosperity, or maybe more peaceful, harmonious relationships. But basically, in the immortal words of Joe Walsh, I can't complain, but sometimes I still do. Right? Sometimes my life feels like that. I can't complain, but sometimes I still do. At the other end of the spectrum, perhaps you've just gone through a change in life that was not what you had anticipated. It wasn't what you wanted at all. And you're wondering, how the hell did I get to this point in my life? We've all been there and done that, right? Well, that's okay, because you have within you this magnificent power to create the life you want. That's the good news. And here's the other part of the good news. There's good news and there's better news. You don't have to make these changes with grim, nose to the grindstone determination and effort. You don't have to do it that way. In fact, that kind of change very rarely sticks around. It falls back into old patterns. But this teaching gives us a much more elegant and effective tool to create whatever it is we want to create. We can call this affirmation, we can call it spiritual mind treatment, we can call it affirmative prayer, but whatever you call it, again, it's from that spirit first thinking, starting with a sense of awe. Now, for those of you who've been around this a little bit, I'm going to deviate a little bit from the standard form of this, but I want us to kind of be reminded of what power we have at our disposal. So hang in there, it's all good. Okay, step number 1. There is one God, or if you prefer, Spirit, and we are one with that. We start from there, spirit first thinking. Feel into that oneness, affirm that. Now, to the degree that you do this step, this will largely determine the effectiveness and outcome of the rest of it. So don't gloss over this. Really go deep with this. The best way I have found to do this, and you may have to find a different way, but try this, is to feel it. Let the mind just kind of dissipate and feel that aliveness within your body. I find it helpful to start with the hands or the feet and then work your way into the core, up to the crown chakra of the head, and feel that light coming down into your body. And give thanks for it. Gratitude is a really important key of this, as is the sense of awe that we can even do this. So few people in the world know about this, and here we are. This is a core of our teaching. And the more you do this, like anything with practice, the better you get. So, step 2, knowing and understanding our oneness, we impress upon the mind a clear vision of what it is we want to do, what we want to achieve, what we want in our lives. And it must be stated in positive terms. Be careful to avoid thoughts such as, I don't want to be sick anymore, I don't want to be broke anymore, I don't want to be lonely anymore. Set that aside. Now, those thoughts may well up. It's kind of part of our habitual thinking, especially if we're around certain relatives. Rather, envision yourself. Affirm that you have abundant energy, radiant health, prosperity in the financial arena, great harmonious relationships, and anything else you can hold in the mind as a vision, as if it were real. As if it were real. You know, we used to do this all the time when we were children. We just called it make-believe. So allow yourself to feel yourself having a great life with all of those elements in perfect place. Most importantly, feel a sense of awe and gratitude around your vision. And then rest in this for a while as if it were real. And give thanks. And release this vision. This is step 3. Release this vision back into spirit. As you believe, so shall it be done unto you. So have and give gratitude for all that is good in your life right now and for all the increase in good that is to come. Give yourself and give God thanks in advance. Now, step 4, as you go through your day, pay attention. Pay attention to the little clues that life is beginning to place in front of you. Look for meaningful coincidences. This is a big one. There's a term for that. It's called synchronicity. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, was once treating a woman who was having a lot of difficulties in her life. And she was wealthy, but she was unhappy. And she said, "Doctor, I don't know what it is. I'm just not happy." And he says, "Well, have you been having dreams?" He says, "Yes, I've been having a recurrent dream," she said, "about this bumblebee flying around my head and just annoying me, and I can't seem to get rid of it." And Dr. Jung thinks, that's interesting, a bumblebee. Right then he hears this. And he looks over the window, and there's a bumblebee tapping against the window as if it's trying to fly through the window and get into his office. This was the first of many such things that happened when he was having therapy sessions, and he began to think that there was some kind of, he put it this way, acausal connecting principle. In other words, a principle that connects things, but there's no obvious cause to it. It just happens because it's connected, and we don't know how, right? When that happens, life is saying, "Hey, wake up, pay attention." And this will happen as you begin to develop this vision. You'll be thinking, "Gosh, I'd really like to meet somebody for whatever reason." And then a friend of yours says, "Hey, I just met the nicest person. Her name is Pat." It's a good bi-gender name. And you should meet him, her. I think you guys would hit it off. What is life telling right there? Pay attention. I was just thinking about that. So, when this happens, when you get little clues like that, follow that trail. This is life trying to lead you down the pathway to your desires. Now, of course, you have to take action. This is step 5. Treat and move your feet. Do the affirmations and then take action. Follow that inner voice telling you to, for example, join a gym, eat more plants, eat less animals, eat less processed foods. Start a side hustle doing something you love to earn greater prosperity. We have a good friend named Mark. He's a fantastic guitar player. He also happens to love Jeeps. He's owned several of them. And he sold one of his older ones, and he had it for years, and he basically sold it for what he paid for it. They hold their value really well. So he thought, that's interesting. Maybe I should buy another one and flip it. So he started flipping Jeeps. He'd bring them in, clean them up, maybe have a little mechanical work done, maybe buy some new tires or something if they needed it. And he was actually making a pretty good side income doing this. In my life, I once had a little girl come up to me and say, "Mr. Cahill, can you fix my clarinet?" And I said, "I don't know, let me see." This is 14 years ago. Ever since then, I've been having a side business of repairing musical instruments. And it earns me about $20,000 a year. Now, that's not enough to live on, but that's a nice little side hustle, isn't it? So this is the thing. You have to pay attention to the little clues that people are giving you and let the guidance that is coming from Spirit, which is based on your vision, the chances are it will be in accordance with the highest good for all concerned, because it's coming from Spirit. Plain and simply. When I fix an instrument, I've done somebody a valuable service. I've had several people come to me with old family heirlooms, grandpa's clarinet. Been sitting in the closet for 30 years. And it's all, pads are all moth-eaten and the thing is all dried out. So I fix it all up, it's like new. And they're just immensely grateful to have grandpa's clarinet working again. And they give it to the grandson, and grandson plays it at school. There's a lot of things like that have happened. This is all for the highest good. So, step 6. After you've taken action, repeat this process every day. I find it really good to do first thing in the morning. Kind of sets the tone for the day. So, all of us, when we wake up, I'm not one of those people that springs out of bed like I was shot out of a cannon, you know. I take a while to wake up. But during that time, I kind of think, okay, now what do I want to do today? What is going to move me to a higher place in my life? And I do the same thing because I'm not one of those people that falls right to sleep when my head hits a pillow. It takes me a good 10, 20 minutes to fall asleep. Best I can tell, I don't like look at the clock once I'm asleep, right? But I have noticed that that's a really good time for me to just kind of live into the vision. It's otherwise wasting time, really, just kind of tossing and turning and worrying about this, worrying about that. Forget about that stuff. What do you want to do in your life? What do you want to happen next? What do you want as a big overarching vision of what your life would be? It was kind of like if you could wave a magic wand, what would you do? What would you be? What would you have? Create that. Lost my place. Now you may have thoughts come up. Oh gosh, why am I doing this? This stuff never works. I gotta focus on my to-do list for tomorrow. I've got so many things to do. I'm so busy. Set that stuff aside for 5 or 10 minutes. Because you'll remember that when you wake up in the morning. It will not let you forget. So that's it. If you make just one New Year's resolution this year, and if you're consistent with it, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night before you get out of bed, after you first go to bed, you will find that things begin to shift for you. And you'll find that you will be able to kind of follow the lead of Spirit in this and to do the things that are necessary to make this come about. Remember, and this is very important, start with that idea that I am one with Spirit. And have a sense of awe about your own life, about what it is you want to do with it, what it is you want to create. Now, as these various individual desires begin to manifest, you can create others. You can start with the small things, just to kind of put it to the test, but in reality, in the mind of God, there is no big or small. So you might want to jump right in and take on any major thing that's really, really been an issue for you. For example, maybe you have a disease that the doctors have said is incurable. Go after that one. There is no big or small in the mind of God. There is no impossible. You might take an overall approach too. This is what kind of works for me. Moving forward on many fronts simultaneously, just sort of creating an overarching vision of what a typical day would be in my perfect life and what that perfect life would be. Moving forward on many fronts simultaneously, abundant health, great harmonious relationships, financial abundance, sort of holistically taking this thing on. Remember, it's your life. And believe me when I say this, God wants us to be happy. God does not want us to be miserable martyrs. That is not the way it's supposed to work. The way it's supposed to, no. If one puts that out into the universe, yes, that will come back. So let's be careful about what we put out into the universe and create a vision that works for us as a happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise kind of vision for our lives. So start with this tonight. Just remember as you're getting into sleep, what kind of life do I want? Create that vision coming from Spirit. And then, as you get up, same thing. And next time we're here, let me know if anything shifts in your life. It might be something small, it might be something huge, but it will begin to shift for you. So that's it. I'm going to end my talk right here, and I want to say to all of you, namaste, and so it is.